All right, so our next example is going to be m to the third minus 5m squared minus 11m minus 8 divided by m plus 1. So how do I set up the problem? Thank you. Okay, so m plus 1 is what we're dividing by. And then the stuff that we're dividing goes underneath. And when we put the stuff underneath, we always make sure that all the exponents are there. So I have an exponent of 3, then 2. This is technically an exponent of 1. And then an m to the 0, which would mean it wouldn't even show up. So we have all our exponents. And then what's the first question I ask myself? Yeah, so m multiplied by what is m cubed? Yeah, m squared. Okay, so we put m squared on the top. Then what do? Take the stuff on the top and you multiply it by the stuff in the front and then you subtract. So m squared times m is m cubed. M squared times 1 is just 1m squared, okay? And then we are subtracting both of these things, so I draw a line underneath and I change the sign of each of them. So for the first two, I should get 0 always. If I did it right, I'll get 0. And then what is negative 5m squared minus m squared? Negative 6m squared. And I can go ahead and drop down the next one. Okay. What do I do next? Yeah, so I say m multiplied by what is negative 6m squared? Negative 6m. And then I take the top and I multiply it by the 2 in the front. And what do I get when I multiply it? Okay. And then I draw the line for subtraction. And when I subtract a negative, it's positive. When I subtract a negative, it's positive. So whenever we draw the line, we change both of the signs. So draw the line, change the signs. This goes to 0, like it should always. And then what do I get for these two? Negative 5m. Drop down the next number. All right, and then what goes on the top this time? Negative 5. So I say m multiplied by what is negative 5m? It's negative 5. And then I take the negative 5 on the top and I do what? Multiply it by the stuff in the front. So I get negative 5m minus 5. I draw the line, I change the signs. I get 0 for the first two, that tells me I'm on the right track. And then what do I get for the second two? Negative 3. And I'm done, so I have to write my remainder as a fraction. So it's a negative remainder, which means what do I put next? Minus. And then how do I write the remainder? 3 over m plus 1. So the answer to the problem is m squared minus 6m minus 5 minus 3 over m plus 1. Wasn't that so fun? Good. Good. Okay, we're going to do another one because I know that's exactly what you want today. This one is x to the 4th. Aren't you excited that it's x to the 4th? That means it's a longer problem. Isn't that wonderful? Minus x to the 3rd plus 8x minus 1 divided by x minus 1. Can anybody tell me what's kind of weird about this problem? There's no x squared term. So what should we do for the x squared term? Put a 0 there. So when I write this problem out, I have the x minus 1, and then I have to be careful when I write the rest to put a 0x squared in there. So plus 0x squared, then plus 8x, and then minus 1. It's like if you have the number 105, you don't write the 1 and the 5 and ignore the 0 because zeros aren't important. You have to have the 0 there to represent the tens place. Does that make sense? 105 is 105. You don't just ditch the 0. So this is representing the x squared place. Even though there's nothing there, we have to have something that represents it. Because if we didn't have something that represents it, we would have a hard time lining up our terms. Okay? All right, so I'm going to say x multiplied by what is x to the 4th? X cubed. Okay, and then what do I do? Multiply x cubed by the stuff in the front. So x to the 4th. And then negative x cubed. We draw the line. We change the signs. And then something weird happens. Yeah, you get 0. You get 0. You see that? We drop down the next one. What happens again? And we drop down this one. We get 0 again. So none of those were helpful so far, right? We're going to keep dropping them down. 8x. Now, when we do the long division, we like to have two things dropped down. Because when we multiply by two things in the front. So we have two things to line up. Does that make sense? So I'm going to drop down the negative 1 as well. Because I like to have two things dropped down. Okay. So now I'm going to say 8x multiplied by what? X multiplied by what is 8x? 8. So I've got a plus 8 over here. You can put them if you want, 0x squared, 0x. If you want to put them there, you can. It's the one difference between that and actual long division is that you don't really have to work with a 0. Yeah. So 8 is what goes on the top, and then what do we have next? Okay, so 8 multiplied by x minus 1 is 8x minus 8. We draw the line. We change the signs. Okay, so that zeroes out. We get 7. So how do I write the remainder now? I almost wrote it. I went to write it. We are not writing this the 3rd grade way. We are writing this the high school way. So we do not write R7. We write, it's a positive remainder, so what do I put next? Plus 7 over x minus 1. So our answer is x to the 3rd plus 8 plus 7 over x minus 1. Yeah.
Use 0x squared and 0x, just need that one.
You don't need them. I mean, you can put 0x squared and 0x if you want, but typically we don't write them if they're zeros. Yeah. Now, in this problem, if you had not written the 0x squared, you probably could have gotten away with it and still got the answer right. But that's not the case every time, which is why we write it, because a lot of students will forget to write it, and then their numbers don't line up right, and then they're subtracting an x squared from an x to the 3rd, and then their answer is completely wrong. Does that make sense? So we put the x squared in there so that everything can line up. Okay, I want to do one with a coefficient, just so we can practice that, and then we're going to do an activity. Woo-hoo. And we all know that math activities are the most fun, right? All right. So this time we're going to do 48x to the third. Doesn't that look good already? 48x to the third minus 38x squared minus 58x. There's a lot of 8's in this problem. Plus 37 divided by 8x minus 9. Cool. Look at those numbers. What wonderful numbers. Nah. That'd be cool though, right? Well, it's kind of like if somebody said do 24 divided by 4. You wouldn't do a GCF there. You'd just be like, oh, 24 divided by 4 is 6. Let me just divide it and see what I get. So we're dividing. We're just dividing stuff with letters in it. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird, huh? All right, so we have 8x minus 9 over here. Are we missing any of our exponents? No. All right, so this one is easy to set up. No. You just have to think more about your multiplication this time. So the steps are still the same. We just have more numbers now. So we're going to say 8x multiplied by what becomes 48x to the third? 6x squared. Good. Okay, so 8x multiplied by 6x squared is 48x cubed. Okay. Negative 9 multiplied by 6. Yeah, negative 54x squared. We draw the line. We change the signs. We got 0 like we expected. 54. Hi. No, we're just doing notes. Uh-huh. He's not here today.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Oh. Yeah, that's probably fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll just come snag him right when we're ready.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have a negative 38 and a positive 54. So if we have 54 and we subtract 30, that's 24. And if we subtract another 8, we need a calculator. Whew, this is rough. Let's go ahead. It's not 12.
Wait.
It's 16. I think somebody said 22. Woo. All right. Drop down the negative 58x. No. Thank you. Oh, man. Okay, so next we say 8x multiplied by what is 16x squared? Why are you texting? I saw you texting. No, your thumbs were involved. Okay, put away. All right, 8x multiplied by what is 16x squared? 2x. And it's a positive 2x, so I'm going to go ahead and put the plus there. Okay, so 8x times 2x is 16x squared. Negative 9 times 2x. Negative 18x. We draw the line and change the signs. We get 0. That's good.
58 minus 32. Negative 40.
Negative 40. All right, and I drop down the next number. And then we say ax multiplied by what is negative 40x? Negative 5. Negative 5 times positive 8x. Negative 40x. Negative 5 times negative 9. And we draw the line and we change the signs. We get 0. Okay, negative 45 plus 30 is negative 15. Negative 15, it was positive, but we changed the sign. And then negative 15 plus 7 is speechless. Is negative 8. Oh my gosh. Ugh. Oh. All right, and then what do I write next? Eight x minus 9. Okay. And done. Well, those were, we did 4 altogether. Yeah, I would say these look a lot harder than they are. And they're hardest at first, and then once you do a bunch of them, they start to just get tedious at that point. It's like, yes, okay, why do I have to keep doing these? All right, so here's what we're going to do now. All right, so on your papers, you're going to start with card A. And the problem at the bottom says x to the 4th plus 16x to the 3rd plus 52x squared minus 50x minus 14 divided by x plus 6. So you're starting with card A. All right, what do we do first? We set up the problem. So we need x cubed. Thank you. So x times x cubed, x to the 4th, 6 times x cubed, 6x cubed, draw the line, change the signs, 0, 10x cubed, drop down the next number. All right, you guys can go from there. Be very careful to not move too fast, because if you make a mistake in the middle of the problem, your answer gets wildly wrong. You should not have decimals. You should not have, it is possible, but I did not give you problems that would do that. You should not have decimals. You should not have fractions within your answer that I recall. Okay, so if something starts to go weird, let me know and I'll help you try to figure out where the mistake is. Okay? Sound good? Marvelous.